Morning everybody, welcome to another of our sessions for Programmes on the Web. Really delighted to have with us today Lynn Hart. Lynn and I have known each other for a number of years, it's fair to say, in various guises. Lynette actually currently works for Resilient Rutland, and I'm going to get Lynette to just take you through what Resilient Rutland is, what they do, and how some of the activities and resources that they have developed and are using really successfully with children and young people, we can adapt for us as leaders so that we can actually use them as part of scouting with our young people. So I'm going to let Lynette introduce herself and tell us all about Resilient Rutland and what's going on. So
thanks, Michelle. Lovely to see you this morning, and thanks for asking me. So it's going to share my screen without flaw or pause. There we are. Okay, so as Michelle said, I'm Lynn Hart. Michelle and I have known each other a long, long time. I come from a background in teaching and pastoral care for, dare I say it, 22 years. That's how old I am. But my role at the moment, starting in September last year, is with the National Lottery funded project, Resilient Rutland. So on this slide, just trying to capture a little bit about what we do. We're a funded project short term for 3 years, and our remit is to support the mental health and well-being of young people in Rutland. So our vehicle is schools, although that is branching out with families and community groups, such as the Scouts. But in Rutland we have 24 schools, so we're looking at primary and secondary. And the project, what we're trying to do is develop resources to support mental health and well-being, to share those, to importantly signpost so that young people, their families, and the professionals and leaders working with them can understand where to go for help, to access specialist support services, and to also see what's out there, because there's so many resources. We're trying to bring them into one place to make it less overwhelming and helpful for people. One of the big parts of our project is support and collaboration at peer level. So teachers with teachers, young people working together, and starting up a number of different groups so people can talk to each other, share good practice, and ultimately support our young people. Something I'm going to go and talk to you. Sorry.
So I'm going to say a lot of what you're doing has a basis, doesn't it? It's not just like plucked out of thin air. There's a real sort of like structure and base behind a lot of what you do.
It does, and that's our resilience framework that I will talk to you about in a moment. That structure actually allows us to work with the programs that we're doing. Alongside that, we've got parent community, voice of young people, and actually communities of practice to bring together people going beyond Rutland as well. Obviously we've got local counties, but we've got national representation as well. Plus point of coronavirus and the Zoom platform is that a number of people from throughout the country have just said, yes, please, let's get involved, let's talk about young people and what we can do. And our outcome really is sustainable change. We want to, after the project has gone, we want to have developed communities that talk to each other about support, that the resources are there, that the way of thinking is there, so that can continue long after us. So that's a nutshell in our project, resource and collaboration. We've also supported counselling in our schools, in our secondaries. So that's a bit of the support that's gone on as well. So, are there any questions about the project, Michelle, before I?
No, I don't think so. I think if you move on to all the fun stuff.
Brilliant stuff. So here's a copy of the Academic Resilience Framework. Now, this isn't ours. It was written by Professor Angie Hart and her colleagues at Brighton University, and it's what we call research-driven. So every single box there, if you like, has a research article behind it. And the company at the bottom, www.boingboing.org.uk, you can access that, lots of resources, and an interactive version of this, you can read about the research. But this is a real life changer for me, really, when I came across this. It's what we call an asset-focused approach to resilience and mental health and well-being. And what that means is we focus on the positives. We look at what assets, what positive things we can bring into our lives to help us cope better, and to build that resilience as a daily toolkit. So part of everyday living, not just when things are difficult, but a part of our everyday. So if you were to count those, there are 42 boxes. And the boxes are actually referred to as resilient moves. So in other words, trying to develop resilient moves in our own life to support ourselves and others. So you'll see there are 5 columns. They're not hierarchical, but some are really central. But your basics, belonging, learning, coping, and core self. And they're also based on noble truths, which are listed along the bottom. And these are mindsets of how we approach things, working with others. We don't do things to others, we work with them, we accept, we work together, and we commit, because when we're looking at support of young people, as you know, with the Scouts, it's not a short-term thing, it's a long-term thing, and we're in it for the long haul. So a lot of these things are going to develop, they're going to grow gradually. So this is applicable to everybody, children, adults, community projects, and our inspiration have come from Blackpool Head Start project, another lottery funded project, and they've developed what's called a resilience revolution, and it's all based on this framework, sharing these resilient moves. And in Blackpool you'll find it in the community, parents, schools, clubs, associations, all using this. So potentially, as you said, it's really exciting. So to put this into perspective, I suppose, or to apply it, we've started to think of ideas of how we can share these resilient moves in our schools and the community. And I put together a number of resources to that just the lift up and go resources that will help deliver some of these resilient moves. And we've also just launched our Resilient Moves calendar. So this is really where the fun starts. So we based June on the coping section of the resilience framework, simply because with everything that's happening at the moment, it fits. There's a lot of difficulty with coronavirus and the challenges all of that brings. So we wanted to share some resilient moves that can help us cope. So the idea is, we can use it a number of ways, but one way you can use it is that every day in your family or in your school, you do one of these. So yesterday was, on the 16th, was find somewhere new to walk and explore your surroundings. So I headed off in rural Lincolnshire to somewhere I've not walked to before, didn't get lost, found some new sheep, but actually it was really refreshing to do something different. And today you can enjoy doing that, where you write down anything that bugged you, and then you rip it up, you scrunch it up and you throw it away. So it could be on a daily daily use where you do it every day, but groups might want to use it in a different way.
Yeah, and I think kind of if you look at those, and I'm sure leaders that are viewing this now, there's lots of things that we can do as part of our virtual group meetings, where you can sort of like just bring some of these resilient moves into and integrate it as part of the ordinary programme that they're running. And I know lots of leaders have said, you know, that one thing that they are wanting to look at is bringing in things like resilience and emotional well-being, and that's part of the programme, especially because this is unprecedented times. We've not had this before, and there's lots of things on there that I know can be just brought in as a little snippets, can be brought into a Zoom Scout meeting.
Yeah, and I think you know, certainly you could look at one in your Scouts meetings, and then people could have something to take away, and then at the start of the next meeting they can talk about what they've done. And there's some brilliant things in there. There's a lot of calming down and self-soothing. Sometimes people can be intimidated by self-soothing techniques, and I think this shows that they're not intimidating at all, and that there's lots of things you can do that are simply wonderful, and not just yourself but also for others. So actually thinking, you know, about your friends, are they okay? Can I do anything to support other people? Let's get some humour, and bring a number of those things in. So all based on those resilience moves. So
and it's important. sorry, Lynette, it's important, isn't it, to sort of like say that these aren't just for young people, they can be used by adults as well. So the leaders can do it too, and families.
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, I've been doing it, and interestingly, some friends who've retired have really grabbed onto this, and actually a little bit of self-care and resilience for them. You know, important when routine goes away, and at the moment for some of us our routine has changed significantly. So yeah, having a look at that. So every month we're going to focus on a different section. July we're going to look at core self, and then as that runs through, bringing us to September, which is the next start of the academic year, we're going to be looking at belonging. So actually reforming those communities, and looking at where we belong. So yeah, lots to use there. So I think your leaders might find that helpful. Right, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of resources. There are lots of resources on our website. They're free, they're downloadable, and they're ready to use. They're in PDF version, so if any of your Scout leaders wanted them in Word version because they wanted to edit them and change them, just get in touch and I can send you the Word version, but on our website they are PDF. But this one I wrote specifically for coronavirus, but it does apply to anything. So we're taking worry resolution, and sometimes, just noticed a spelling error in that top line. It says emotions. Sometimes we need an activity to get us talking about how we're feeling. It's not always an easy thing to do, and that's for adults and young people. So there's two stages of this activity, and the first one is to take the situation you're feeling difficult. So could be coronavirus, could be going back to school, could be transition, could be going to a birthday party because you're nervous about talking to people, absolutely anything, okay? And what you need to do is write down the good things and also the things you're worried about. And me being me, I've done drawing on my hands, I've done sad face and smiley face. You could just do 2 lists. There's no age limit on it, you can do it however you want, okay? But good things and negatives. So bizarrely with coronavirus, if you actually think about it, there's lots of good things coming out of it. And whether that's slowing down the pace of life, or it's communities forming, or it's people asking each other how they are and actually meaning it, effect on the environment, loads of strength. So actually, even in a difficult situation or something you're worried about, you can genuinely find some positives. You might not find 5, but you might. So thinking about what those positives might be, start with those because it's a good starting point. Then you think, right, what am I worried about then? What are the challenges? And we all have challenges and worries in our life. And at the moment, they can be huge. So we're going to limit ourselves to 5. Maybe we could write more, but thinking about what some of those negatives are. So that's stage 1. It creates a balanced approach. So you're thinking of good and challenge at the same time. And then the next stage is to actually take each worry and talk about it. Now, you can do that with someone else. I often do it and talk to myself and answer, by the way, because that's just me. But it's helpful for someone else, someone you trust and can talk to. You take each one and you think, right, well, what am I going to do about it? So it could be, we can't solve all the worries. That's the important thing. We can't sometimes, but sometimes talking about it makes us feel better. So one resolve is, I'm going to talk to someone about that. I'm going to pass it on. And as adults or leaders, Scout leaders, sometimes we need to take a worry off a young person and say, do you know what? That's an adult worry. You've shared that with me. I've got that one for you now. Okay, I'm taking that one away. Or you think, do you know, I'm going to come back to that. Or you might be able to say something positive to yourself and sort of say, do you know, I can reshape that one and balance it with the good. And I think if we take something like coronavirus, and this isn't removing how huge this is, thinking about some of those resolutions is really important, and control comes into that. So one of them, you know, I'm worried about catching the virus. I don't want to be out with other people. Will it spread? These are all things that go around in our heads, and young people as well. They're starting to return to school, and actually we can't control what other people do, but we can control what we do. So actually you think, no, I can wash my hands, I can follow the guidelines, and I can control that bit. And almost parking the fact that you can't control what other people are doing. When you see them in crowds or perhaps behaving irresponsibly, that does make you worry, but you can't change that. But what you can do is you can focus on you. So the role of control when you're talking about some of these is important, but it's the idea of coming towards a resolve, being kind to yourself, talking about it, reaching out to others, and it's really powerful. It's quite emotional doing this myself when I did it. It was at a time when we were just coping with lockdown, but actually taking some of those worries and not just ignoring them, but talking about them and thinking, you know, how can I start to find a resolve for me? So that activity is good to go. You can print it off. And I've also done one on there about returning to school. So tweaked it a little bit, but it's the same thing. So that's one resource that actually does start a conversation about how we're feeling, particularly at the moment.
Fabulous. I think that's going to be really useful. Yeah.
I won't dwell on this one, but this is a wonderful example of a teaching colleague who has returned. She's a Year 6 teacher and wanted to do this hand resolution with her Year 6 children to actually, as I said, start a conversation about how they're feeling. And she did it on herself. You know, how is she feeling about going back? Because, you know, teachers, leaders in the workplace, we are obviously trying to role model, but we've also got our own worries. So she did this, and then it was very well received by her class because she put herself out there as well, to just show that, you know, we're there too, we're struggling, and that's okay, and we can talk about it, and look at those good things and the challenges too. So
Fabulous.
yeah, that's the solution. So just a couple more, some lighter, perhaps more fun ones, if you like.
To be fair, we did have a really difficult choice picking some of these out because there were so many that we could have chosen, that we have just focused on a couple. So there are, like you've said, there are loads more out there, but we did just pick on a couple eventually.
There are. I mean, I've been so busy over lockdown. It is actually a positive, is I've had a chance to write lots of resources, and at the same time, if you want feedback on a resource you want me to write, well, unleash me and I'll get to it. But this one's about calming down and self-soothe. It's about removing the, I don't know, tree hugging's wonderful. I love hugging trees, but people might just think, oh, what is this self-soothing? It makes me very nervous. It doesn't need to. So 3 ways you can do it. If you like the hand thing, you could write down 10 things that make you feel good and calm, and then build these into your everyday, not just when things are starting to go wrong, but also just part of your self-calm and self-care. Activity number 2, they're all the same, they're just different ways of doing this, so you pick one of these. Number 2 is self-care wheel. So you just write down again things that you feel good, you spin it, and you pick one. So what we got on there: exercising, reading a book, connecting with friends, whether that's over Zoom at the moment or socially distancing, listening to music, playing it loud, singing really loudly. You know, there's lots of things you can put in there, but the important thing is that you write this for you. Yours might be really different to someone else's, and that's fine. Another version of it is self-care jar. It doesn't have to be as wonderful as that, but they're pretty cool. My daughter made those. The idea is you have a jar, you write down some of your activities, you fold them up, you pop them in, and then you find time every day or every couple of days to pick one out.
Well, a bit like pick and mix.
Yeah, but this is about you. So all of the good stuff that's in there, you know, can all go in there. So 3 versions of the same activity there, Michelle. That would be lovely to set them going on and then bring back to their next Scout meeting, really.
Yeah, and great that there's a variety there. It just shows that they are adaptable, and I'm sure some of our amazing leaders will probably find even more ways of doing the same activity. So that's great scope for people just to be creative themselves as well.
Yeah, and to just, take it forward in your own way. But the biggest outcome really is for the young people to connect with themselves and think, who am I? What helps calm me? What do I enjoy doing? And actually in our busy lives, we can forget about ourselves sometimes. So it's actually getting those positives in. And again, a potentially scary issue, it doesn't scare me, but I put together a resource of breathing for self-calm. You know, I often laugh with my own children about this. It's like, should we do some breathing? Inhale, exhale, and we just get the giggles.
You're not very good at one of these varieties, though, are you?
No, I can't do a square breathing. That's because I hold my breath too long and I get in a right mess. So square breathing for me doesn't work. Just doesn't work. But for someone else, it really does. My favourites are the hand breathing. So that's where you've got your hand and you breathe in and out, in and out. And you can actually do it with some hand cream as well, which is quite nice. And one younger children love, and I do because I love hot chocolate, is you imagine you've got your hot chocolate, and you breathe it in, and you exhale to cool it.
Blow all the froth off.
Yeah, and it really self-regulates. So particularly if anxiety is building, but also a really good way to just relax and you know, regulate your breathing. If you can regulate your breathing, you gain control of a lot of things, and it's also a very healthy thing to do. And then 3 other ideas for you to try. Simple self-calm. Self-hug is lovely, especially at the moment when you perhaps can't hug other people. But some people won't like that, and that's fine. But one of my favourites here is happy place, where you actually close your eyes, think of a happy place where you feel safe. And it's hard to do that without smiling. You can actually have a little chat about that. Mine's the beach, always at the beach.
I think a lot of our leaders and our young people, the happy place at the minute is going to be on Scout Camp. I think that's going to be one of the favourite happy places that there is. And everybody's just all on camp together or around a campfire. I think there's going to be a lot of leaders and a lot of young people. That's going to be their happy place at the moment.
And sometimes it's thinking about that, and I think sometimes things are different. Just close your eyes and you take yourself there, and mental imagery is very powerful. But also respect that people's happy places are very different. So when I did this activity with some teaching colleagues, we were sharing our happy places, and I was talking about Brancaster Beach in Norfolk and the waves crashing and all the different things. She was on the back of a Harley Davidson, cuddling a hairy bike. I don't know whether she knew him or not, but she was roaring through the countryside, and I thought how different your happy place is. And the thing is, now that makes me smile when I think about my beach, I think about her roaring along on a Harley Davidson. I just like, it's kind of my happy place. But yeah, and Power of 5 is a good one as well. Thinking about 5 things around the room. But yeah, again, your scout leaders, you start talking to your young people, they'll come up with lots of ideas of their own, and these are 3. And Dr. Pookie Knightsmith, who I watch a lot of her YouTubes and courses, she always says, look, if it works for you, keep it. If it doesn't, leave it. And this is all very personal again, so you find what works for you. And
to be fair, she offers some very good free courses as well. On resilience and emotional well-being. I know I've done a couple over this lockdown period, and they're very, very good courses as well.
Yeah, they are, and I'd say have a look at those because they do help all of us. So finally from me, because I've done a lot of talking, but just to share our website there, www.resilientrutland.co.uk. It's got signposting on there about getting help, and also from our point of view, the resources section, and you'll see it split into 3: resilient moves, general activities for families and young people, and free talks and resources. So the Pookie Knightsmith talks are actually clearly advertised on there. But the resilient moves has got our calendar, and it's got 15 resources focusing on different resilient moves from that framework. And as I said, feedback to me if I can help, and your scout leaders indeed might have lots of other resources they're developing on different parts of the framework and ideas, so we can add to this and bring them together. The more we can collaborate, the more we can help our young people.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I know we've said that we've already spoken about the resources here, but we'll ensure that there's a link put on the website as well, so that leaders can go back at another time, and the links will be there as well as obviously what we've just been talking about. So right, so I'm going to say a huge thank you to Lynn for doing this for us. I did kind of like badger her into it a little bit, to be honest, but huge thanks from all of us and to you, Lynn, and I'm pleased that all your family and everything have kept safe through this. So thank you all. Thank you very much for doing this.
I'll add that the badgering is because I was actually terrified of being videoed. There was no other reason. I'm totally out there to support and work together, but the thought of being videoed made me run and hide, but here I am being videoed. But Michelle, absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for asking me. And
yeah, no problem at all. And
stay in touch and pick it up. Thank you.